The unprotected, for 2012, pay 2013, the protected taxes, how it stands now. Talk about the distribution changes for the MVH, and then also the changes for the FIT distribution. So Senate Enrolled Act 517 has amended the Indiana Code and the statute pertaining to the protected and unprotected taxes. What it has done is it still in place are the terms protected taxes, like think of it as protected funds, and the unprotected taxes or funds. Those terms and the definitions still remain the same. But for this year, the only funds that are circuit breaker revenue loss protected are the circuit breaker exempt funds. And the circuit breaker exempt funds are all referendum funds, and for Lake and St. Joe County, the pre-July 1, 2008 debt service and lease rental funds. That is exactly as it was last year. There's no change whatsoever, except for the fact we still have these terms of protected and unprotected. So for this year, the only funds that there is going to be a circuit breaker adjusted distribution rate are those circuit breaker exempt funds. And we have already sent to the counties that pertains to, we've already sent to you those rates. So the allocation for this year, the allocation, if any, of the 2013 property tax distributions between the circuit breaker protected and unprotected funds is going to be done by the taxing units after you have distributed taxes to the taxing units. So if a unit has a protected fund, debt service fund, that has insufficient revenue from property taxes because of circuit breaker, the allocation to that fund from the unprotected funds is going to be performed by the taxing unit. You're out of it. You don't have to do any adjusting of your distributions. It's going to be up to the taxing units to allocate that between the funds. And they're going to do that allocation as it prescribes in that subsection 9.8E, and that for next year, we will be giving you guidance as to how to administer the circuit breaker protected and unprotected funds at the next conference. It's not exactly clear how that's going to be done. So that's going to take a few weeks and a few meetings and lots of studying and to decide what sort of what the guidance will be. And we'll be meeting with the Department of Local Government Finance. We would much welcome that you would read that statute and think through that yourselves and give us some guidance or help with the guidance for that, because it's not quite clear how this is going to be done. Talked with a few auditors, and it's not really clear. I mean, it just simply isn't, and there was no way that we were going to rush through that and come up with something by this conference, because that needs to be thought through on how to do that. Sorry, I had, where did it go? Well, I had the list of the counties that we had sent the rates to, and not quite sure where that went to. I know it. I clicked on it and then it disappeared. Well, yeah. Yeah, well, like a fool, I didn't bring my list up here with me. But, yeah, we have it here. Very first one. So this is the list of the counties that we've sent the circuit breaker adjusted rates for this year, and that you're going to use the circuit breaker adjusted rate for the distribution of property taxes. So if you're out there wondering, did any of that apply to me as far as the adjusted rates, these are the counties that it is applicable to. So, questions on protected, unprotected?
Good job, Dan. They have no questions.
Okay. Now to the more fun stuff. Not that that wasn't fun. It's fun in the sense that you don't have to deal with it this year. But this is really fun here because here real soon, I'm sure you've heard that the MVH distribution is going to increase. And you may be wondering, is that really true? Is that really going to happen? And yes, it is going to happen. I didn't think I would ever see this happen. I am so happy for everyone, the counties. Well, I'm happy for myself. Maybe we'll get better roads. We hopefully will get better roads, because if we don't get better roads, the legislators are going to be mad as heck. So I'm sure we're all going to get better roads, and you are going to see quite a substantial increase in the MVH distribution. Now, it's not going to start tomorrow. It's not even going to start in July. But it is going to begin in August. And the reason for that, even though the law is effective July 1, as far as the changes are, and we'll go through the changes here in a moment, but even though that is the effective date, the MVH distribution and most every other distribution is in arrears. In other words, the revenue and expense activity for the month of May is going to be reflected in the June distribution, and the activity for June will be in the July. So July is going to be based on June activity, which these changes don't go into place until July 1. But the August distribution is going to be reflective of that change. Now, I want to take a moment to remind everyone, though, that in August is the month when we send out the MVH number 1 and MVH number 2 distributions. And August is always the month that the MVH and the local road and street distribution is less than it is the other 11 months of the year. That will still be true this year. It's just that August won't be as much less as you've been experienced in the past. And it should be, in terms of percentage increase, the same. In other words, when you would look back at last August and apply a percentage increase to last August, you will come up with a number that'll be something close to what the August distribution will be. So just keep that in mind, that the August will be higher, but yet it won't be as high as it won't be as good as it's going to get. So So I'm going to go through these next slides, walking you through how we determine the MVH distribution, what makes up the MVH distribution, and we're going to look at it as it is today. We're going to look at what the revenues are today, what the expenses are today, and how we determine the net amount to distribute to counties and cities and to NDOT. We're going to look at that. Following that, then we're going to look at those same slides again, except you're going to see lines through items that will show you this is going away. This is no longer part of it. And then we'll leave the great news to the very end and talk about how much is it going to increase or what the estimate is right now. So first of all, currently, and this is how it's going to be up until prior to the August distribution. Our first step, we go through determining the amount available to distribute. And the amount available equals the revenues for the month minus the net expenses. And we have the net expenses equal the gross state police expense and forensic science expenses less these general fund and motor carrier fund reimbursements. And then we have some other fund expenses that are deducted. So we have revenue minus expenses, and then the second step, we take that amount that available and we allocate it to NDOT in the counties and cities and towns. And then the third step, we adjust those allocations. There are some statutory adjustments, and then for the county and city and town allocation, we increase it for the county and city and town share of the 1 cent of a gas tax. Then the final step, we distribute those dollars. So right now, these are the revenue items. And so this is just a list of all the different revenues that we are looking at and capturing for the month. And then we have our fuel taxes, and then the vehicle registration and title fees. The fund gets a share of the state court costs that the county clerks, city and town clerks send in. And then the fund also receives some miscellaneous expense reimbursements from motor carrier, toll road, and gaming commission for the state police. And then we have some miscellaneous revenues from these different state agencies. Right now we deduct expenses, and so these are the expenses we're deducting. And it has these percentages of state police and forensic science. This is the net state police and forensic science. This is the amount after the general fund, state general fund, and motor carrier funds share of these expenses or reimbursements. Also, we have expenses that are like the Department of Revenue, what they charge for collecting the taxes. The Bureau of Motor Vehicle expenses that are not including the license branches. The expense for the production of license plates is deducted out of the MVH money. And then traffic and school safety programs, those are deducted out. And then also fuel tax refunds are by statute paid out of the MVH fund. Then so those revenues minus expenses, we get our amount available. Then we go through a process of adjusting that amount available for different statutory items that are listed there. And, and those don't apply every month, but for the months that they do, we have to make these adjustments before we have the amount to distribute. Then we have a monthly adjustment to the allocation for the county and the city and town allocation that for 1 cent of the gas tax. A few years back in 2003, the state legislators increased the fuel tax by 3 cents. They allocated 1 cent of that 3 cent increase to be distributed to counties and cities and towns through the MVH formula. And we couldn't just put that revenue into the calculation on the front end, because if we did, then 53% of that would have went to NDOT. So we have to bring that adjustment in on the back end and do it with this allocation adjustment. Then after we have done the allocation adjustments, we have the amount we're going to distribute, and the NDOT amount we transfer from the MVH fund to NDOT state fund. Then the county amount is distributed to counties. This is how it's allocated. The 5% equal, 65% is allocated on road mileage, and 30% by vehicle registration. The city and town amount is allocated solely on a population basis. So now here's what we really want to know. Okay, what part of that changed? What's going to change after the July 2013 distribution? Okay, first thing is those expense items that were being deducted are going away. We're not going to be deducting any expenses from the revenues. That's the major change. Well, that and one more thing. So we look at the revenues. How are the revenues changing? Well, the revenues are staying the same. None of the revenues were taken away. Better yet, a new revenue is coming into the picture. 1% of sales tax collections is going to be part of the MVH distribution. So not only did they leave the revenues in place, it's being added to with 1% of sales tax. But those reimbursements that were, those revenue items that were the reimbursements for the state police, now those revenue items are going away because there is no deduction of state police expense, so therefore there's no need for reimbursement revenue to be coming into the picture. Now, those miscellaneous revenue items that were state police and Bureau of Motor Vehicle and traffic safety and school safety, now those revenues aren't going to be in the picture either. So revenue is going to be decreased by a little bit. But that's only because of association. I mean, those same state agencies are not going to be part of the expense, or their expenses aren't going to be a reduction in the MVH fund. So it's kind of a matching thing going on here. On the expense side, all these things with the line through them, those are going away. The only expense that's staying is the fuel tax refunds. So all of that, those things that were, all of those items that were reducing the distribution are going away. The allocation adjustments, all of the allocation adjustments, there are no changes. They stay the same. The 1 cent gas tax allocation adjustment, that stays the same. That wasn't taken away. So that's still going to be into the formula as an increase to the city and town and county distribution. We're still going to do it by an allocation adjustment on the tail end, because for the same reason we were before. If we put it in on the front end of the formula, then 53% of it would go to NDOT, and NDOT is not to get 53% of that 1 cent. Just like before, when we have the amount that's going to be distributed, there are no changes there. You know, NDOT gets their share posted to their fund, and counties will get you'll get your share with a distribution from us. The distribution is going to be allocated exactly the same as it has been before. So what I did is I thought, I'm going to do a what if. I'm going to go back and look at calendar year 2012. I'm going to go back and look, okay, had these changes been in place during the calendar year 2012 distributions of MVH money, what would it have looked like? And so I did that. And I found that by eliminating those expenses of state police and forensic science, distributions would have increased $95 million. Eliminating Bureau of Motor Vehicles from the picture would have increased the distribution by $39 million. Eliminating the Department of Revenue tax collection expenses, that would have increased the distributions by almost $9.8 million. And the elimination of traffic safety would have been around $620,000 increase overall for the calendar year. 1% of the calendar year 2012 sales tax would have been $66.9 million, $67 million increase in the distributions. So, and then we have, if you remember, I mentioned that there was one revenue decrease that's would happen because the revenues that are associated solely with those state police, BMV, and traffic safety programs, those miscellaneous revenues are going to go to the state general fund and not to the MVH fund. So if that would have happened in 2012, then that would have decreased the distributions by $4.6 million. So overall, if these changes had been in place for 2012, calendar year 2012, then the total amount available, or the amount available for MVH distribution would have increased by $207 million. And if we look at what 32%, the county's share of that $207 million, that would have been $66 million, or a 36% increase in the county distributions. And also the same for cities and towns, 36% increase. Not bad. It's been said that this is something equivalent to a 7-cent increase in fuel tax. I think it's good. I've looked at the numbers about 3 different directions. I still keep coming back to this mid 30% range. So at the 1st of June, I will be sending out the revenue estimate formulas, as I always do. And unless something comes along that I see on my next calculation run on it, you should expect to see that you're going to be looking back at previous distribution periods and adding 35 to 37% to that for your upcoming revenue estimate. Now, keep in mind the revenue estimate for this last half of this current calendar year in terms of a percentage increase is going to be less than it will be for looking at 2014. And the reason is because the July distribution is still going to be at the old way, if you will. And so it's not, that won't be in place for July. But when we look at 2014, I'm thinking I'm really decided yet, but we're going to be somewhere around 35, 37% at least as a percentage increase that you're going to use. So this is great. I mean, this is really great, and I think it's going to be good for everyone and to help a little bit with how much the road funding has fallen behind. Yes. Okay, the question, the question is those expenses that are being eliminated from the MVH and eliminated from this distribution, where are they going to go? The State General Fund. Yes. Martha asked, do you know how many years I've been trying? Well, I can remember lots and lots of years.
I remember that too. We
Yeah.
talked about it probably 8 years ago. And
Right.
what happened to the General Assembly? How did they happen to change that this year?
You have to ask your local representative and senator.
It is good news.
I think you all did a good job of convincing them that, you're just continually falling behind with the funding but yeah, well, I've seen this is I've been there a long time, and I've seen this total flip-flop, because when I first started, we had basically 50-50 share on state police from the MVH fund and general fund, and really then for 1 or 2 years it might have been just a little bit less out of the MVH than 50%, and then we went to the 65% out of the MVH. So this is, and I thought I'd never see the day where it'd be 0%. So.
Financial institutions tax.
The House and Road Act 1001, Section 125, is amending the financial institutions tax distribution statute. One of the changes is the change in the frequency of our state distributions, and then the other change is the basis of those distributions. So effective July 1, 2013, this year, the FIT distributions are going to be on December 1 and June 1, sorry. And the basis for those distributions will be 40% of the previous year, fiscal year end FIT collections. So the previous fiscal year FIT revenue is going to be the basis, and 40% of that revenue will be the basis that we use. And then at each distribution, we're going to be distributing half of that amount. How are we going to allocate it? We're going to allocate it between counties using the calendar year 2012 FIT guaranteed distribution amounts. How are you going to allocate it? You're going to allocate it between the taxing units using the 2012 FIT guaranteed distribution amounts for your county. Whenever we send a distribution, we will be giving you a report that will give you that breakdown of the amounts for each of the taxing units. Taxing units receiving the financial institutions tax going forward will be the same taxing units have been getting it all along, because it's still being based on the FIT guaranteed distribution. It's just that there's no longer going to be that guaranteed distribution report and all those calculations involved with that. The 2012 guaranteed distribution amounts will be the basis and will always be the basis. So once we calculate the percentages for each county, and we'll take those FIT guaranteed amounts, and we will determine of the total, statewide total of the guaranteed distribution amounts, Adams County is X percent of the total, Allen is X percent, Bartholomew, so forth and so on. And from here on out, those will be the percentages. And then for your county, we'll do the same thing. We'll take each of the taxing units that are that receive a guaranteed distribution amount, and we'll determine that taxing unit percentage of the county total of the guaranteed, and whatever that taxing unit's percentage is will be that taxing unit's percentage from here on out. The thing that will change going forward, obviously, is going to be the revenue amount. And so each fiscal year, the new revenue amount for the year will determine, our total amount we're going to distribute, and then the percentages will be applied to that, and it'll be no more complicated than that. For this coming December, it will be the first time that we're going to be distributing the money in this manner. And we the people that I was working with on this legislation that were asking questions and coming up with methodologies and such, we kind of think that you may get a windfall come this December. This 40% number isn't one just pulled out of the air. This 40% is based on an estimation of what FIT revenue will be, because the financial institutions' tax rates are decreasing, and basis estimation of what the revenue is going to be in total. And then they were looking at, okay, what after the deduction of the welfare allocation and the school allocation out of FIT, after that, what dollar amount is being distributed in total, and that number was then compared to the estimation of revenue, and it was calculated to be in the neighborhood of 40%. So in other words, the estimate is that you will be at least as well off or as good a position as you are now after the welfare and school allocations going forward. Now, having said that, this 2013 revenue that will be the basis for the December of 2013 distribution, this revenue is at the higher FIT rates. So there's potential there could be some windfall for this December. So I don't think this December distribution is going to be a good reflection of what next year's will be. But time will tell. So
I think we got a question, Dan.
yes.
Dan, we have a taxing unit that has one financial institution. They closed in April, and you just suggested that whatever is set this year is going to be that going forward permanently. Are they always going to get money even though they will not have a financial institution? They'll like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's been true for. Why don't I just go into this? Because we just got an email on this while we were at conference from someone who's not at conference. The financial institutions tax today, and has been ever since 1989, there is no basis in that distribution, or the beginning of the basis of that distribution is whether or not a taxing unit received bank tax in 1989. Okay? Because the financial institutions tax is the replacement of what was the bank tax. And so to hold taxing units at least at where they were at the time, the change of the tax, it was decided then that, the formula for determining how much a unit is going to receive is going to be based on the fact on whether or not they got 89 bank tax. And that is the beginning of the guaranteed distribution calculation. The adjustment to that, and where a financial institution existence can come into play, it does come into play, has to do with the fact that whatever personal property tax is going to be collected from a financial institution will reduce that basis. But then that reduced basis then is the guaranteed distribution. And so, or no, I take that back. That happens after that. But no, it does happen before that. But the guaranteed distribution. But from going forward, whether or not a financial institution is in existence in a taxing district or not, it has nothing to do with getting it. And the short answer is they will continue, the taxing unit will continue to get a distribution, and it's going to be based on the fact of the the guaranteed amount for 2012. So now we've added another, I guess, layer or another basis for FIT in addition to the 89 bank tax. But
Hang on a second, Dan.
so the way to study that DLGF financial institutions worksheet, that studying that will give you the understanding of how that's based and the basis for that. Yes.
Since we have already received our breakdown on the FIT, so the June is what we'll pay, but now will we get another breakdown for December?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So it'll,
This has nothing to do with what happened with June at all. No,
Okay.
you're going to get a total new report in December. Guess that's it.
Other questions?
Thank you.